New Year's Eve. A night of celebration, hope, and fresh beginnings. Millions gather in Times Square, champagne glasses clink at midnight, and fireworks illuminate the sky as we bid farewell to the old and welcome the new. But for some, this night of joy became something far darker. Tonight, I'm sharing 4 disturbing true stories that unfolded on New Year's Eve. Stories where midnight didn't bring celebration, but tragedy. Story 1. The Station Nightclub Fire. Our first story takes us to West Warwick, Rhode Island, on New Year's Eve, 2002. The Station nightclub was packed with revelers eager to ring in 2003. The venue had a maximum capacity of 404 people. But that night, nearly 462 guests crowded inside, shoulder to shoulder, ready to party. At 11:07 p.m., the band Jack Russell's Great White took the stage. Their tour manager set off pyrotechnics as part of the show's opening, a decision that would prove catastrophic. Within seconds, the polyurethane foam soundproofing on the walls and ceiling caught fire. The flames spread with terrifying speed, faster than anyone could have imagined. The foam wasn't flame retardant. It was essentially solid gasoline. Thick, black smoke filled the club within 90 seconds. Panic erupted. Hundreds of people rushed toward the main entrance, the same door they'd entered through. Bodies piled up in the doorway as people trampled one another, desperate to escape. The other exits were either locked, obscured, or unknown to most guests. By the time firefighters arrived, the building was fully engulfed. The fire was so intense that it melted metal and reduced the structure to ash in minutes. 100 people died that night. Another 230 were injured, many with severe burns. Some victims were found mere feet from exits they never saw through the smoke. One survivor, Gina Russo, later recounted her experience. She was separated from her boyfriend, Fred Chrysostomy, in the chaos. Fred pushed her toward an exit, saving her life. He didn't make it out. Gina suffered burns over 40% of her body and spent months in recovery, haunted by survivors' guilt. The tragedy led to sweeping changes in fire safety codes across America. The band's tour manager and the nightclub owners faced criminal charges. But no amount of legal justice could undo what happened that New Year's Eve. A night that should have been filled with music and celebration became one of the deadliest nightclub fires in American history. Story 2. The DuPont Plaza Hotel Fire. Our second story takes us to San Juan, Puerto Rico, on New Year's Eve, 1986. The DuPont Plaza Hotel was a luxurious beachfront resort, and that evening, it was hosting an extravagant New Year's Eve celebration. Over 1,000 guests filled the ballrooms, restaurants, and casino, dressed in their finest attire, ready to welcome 1987 in style. But beneath the celebration, something sinister was brewing. The hotel was in the midst of a bitter labor dispute. Union workers had been striking for months, demanding better wages and working conditions. Tensions between management and employees had reached a boiling point. At approximately 3:30 p.m., 3 disgruntled hotel employees decided to take drastic action. They entered the ballroom storage area and set fire to furniture and decorations using cooking fuel. Their plan, they later claimed, was to create a small fire that would disrupt the New Year's Eve events and pressure management. But they catastrophically underestimated how quickly the fire would spread. Within minutes, flames raced through the building's interior. The hotel's construction created a chimney effect, funneling smoke and fire upward through stairwells and elevator shafts. Toxic smoke filled the upper floors where hundreds of guests were staying. Guests celebrating in the ballrooms suddenly found themselves trapped. The smoke was so thick that people couldn't see their own hands in front of their faces. Many died from smoke inhalation before they even realized the severity of the situation. Some guests jumped from upper-floor windows to escape the flames, falling to their deaths on the pavement below. Others were trapped in elevators that became death chambers filled with smoke. Firefighters arriving at the scene described hearing screams from every direction, but being unable to reach victims in time. 97 people died in the DuPont Plaza fire. Over 140 were injured. The 3 employees responsible for starting the fire were arrested and convicted of murder. They received lengthy prison sentences, but the damage was done. Families arriving in Puerto Rico for a joyful holiday vacation instead faced unimaginable loss. The DuPont Plaza Hotel never reopened. The burnout shell stood as a grim reminder for years before finally being demolished. New Year's Eve 1986 in San Juan became a day of mourning rather than celebration. Story 3. The Stampede at Abidjan. Our third story takes us to Abidjan, Ivory Coast, on New Year's Eve, 2012. The Felix Houphouët-Boigny Stadium was hosting a massive New Year's Eve celebration and concert. Tens of thousands of people gathered to watch fireworks and musical performances, eager to ring in 2013 together. As midnight approached, excitement in the stadium reached fever pitch. But that excitement quickly turned to terror. Shortly after the fireworks display ended, just past midnight, panic broke out near one of the main exits. The exact trigger remains disputed, but witnesses reported hearing screaming and seeing people suddenly pushing toward the exits. Some say someone yelled, "Fire!" though no fire existed. Others claim a bottle was thrown, hitting someone in the crowd. Whatever the cause, the result was catastrophic. A massive stampede ensued. In the chaos and darkness, thousands of people surged toward the narrow exit gates. People fell and were trampled underfoot. Children were separated from parents. The elderly were knocked down and crushed by the pressing crowd. The stampede lasted only minutes, but those minutes were deadly. When order was finally restored, the scene was nightmarish. Bodies lay scattered near the exits. Shoes, clothing, and personal belongings were strewn across the ground, left behind by people fleeing for their lives. 61 people died in the stampede. At least 200 others were injured, some critically. Many victims were children and teenagers who had come to celebrate the new year with their families. Investigators later determined that the stadium had inadequate safety measures for such a large crowd. Exit routes were poorly marked and insufficient for the number of attendees. Security personnel were unprepared for a mass panic situation. Survivors described the horror of being unable to breathe, of feeling the life being squeezed from their bodies as the crowd pressed in from all sides. Some said they survived only because they were lifted off their feet by the crowd's pressure and carried along above the fallen. The tragedy led to 3 days of national mourning in Ivory Coast. Government officials faced intense criticism for allowing such a large event to proceed without proper safety measures. What should have been a joyful celebration of the new year became one of the deadliest stampedes in African history. Families who came together to celebrate never made it home.